Hi and welcome to episode 2 of In the Kitchen, which is in my kitchen because Melbourne is now in a 6-week lockdown, so all the amazing restaurants and places and things that I'd planned are on hold for the next 6 weeks. So I figured let's still test the video, see what we're doing, and maybe make a few recipes based on travels. So the other day I had a steak sandwich and it got me thinking of a patty melt. Now the patty melt, it's a sandwich. Some would call it a burger, but it's really a sandwich, and its origin is, like a lot of these things, people aren't completely sure of where it came from, but the general story is that there's this guy, Tiny Naylor, in Los Angeles, and he had a diner, a drive-through diner, and he created it in the 1950s. And what it is, it's essentially a beef patty, caramelized onions, some Swiss cheese, and American light rye bread. And that's basically it. Some people put their own spin on it, some people put a sauce in, some people put some pickles in, other variants. But today I'm going to be sticking to the traditional version. Cast iron skillet. Any skillet will do, but cast iron's ideal. Get that on your gas burner. And you want that on a high heat. So put your butter on, about 50 grams. And that should heat up. You want it to heat up till it's bubbling. So quite hot. So that's exactly what you want, that bubbling. Once that's hot and your butter's all melted, put on your onions. You want them chopped lengthwise. I did that earlier. Put on your onions evenly across the skillet. Then you want to season it. So you want salt above those onions. And then avoid the need to touch them. Okay, so it's been about a minute. So now separate them, mix them around. And then at this stage you also want to be turning that heat down a bit. So get that to more of a medium heat. Obviously your skillet is still going to remain quite hot. Now this is the most time consuming part of the recipe. And essentially you want to be getting these onions really soft and caramelised, anywhere between 25-35 minutes, and you want to be stirring them with some regularity. What you can do though, just so you're not waiting an exorbitant amount of time when you do want to make one of these, is you can do the onions in advance. So I'd recommend doing this step, getting a whole bunch of onions, and just put them in the fridge or even the freezer. And then you can just heat them up when you want the sandwich. So the first time I tried this sandwich, across the road, Zickler or Zilper Brewery or something, and looked across the road, there was a little shack and it had this outdoor porch area and it all looked very fun, so I went there. Awesome bar. But when I wanted some food, they had a food truck. It's this place called Ramanaskus Deli, which has since closed. But it was owned by Tom Middleweight, who's a pitmaster, whose barbecue venue I did check out, and he's actually where Chris Perlica from Blue Bonnet Barbecue here in Melbourne learnt a lot of his trade. Anyway, the sandwich was very awesome. That's where I decided that. I'd never heard of it before. Their version actually had mushrooms in it, which was quite interesting. I'm not usually the biggest fan of mushrooms, but I did actually really like them in that sandwich. So they're done, still raw in the middle, exactly the way you want. So now, we'll put the heat down again a bit. Then on goes your bread. So some people will say butter the bread first, and if you do that, make sure you've got it buttered all the way to the crust. You really want that nice coating. I prefer to do it this way, which is the way a lot of people do it, and that's just use all the butter and meat fats for it. So essentially what you want to do, put your bread on, then put your cheese on. So some places will say you can use Swiss cheddar cheese, but Swiss is the original, and the reason for that is that it's just a semi-hard, easy melting, low, not a very strong flavour cheese. Slices are ideal. I actually bought this cheese, which is from a little cheesemaker up in the Yarra Valley. Fortunately, it came in a wedge, so I couldn't get the ideal slices, but that's okay. Got the way we needed. So you want your cheese there. Then you want to put your... Okay, so you put essentially one slice of cheese, or if you've got it grated, a grated slice worth. Probably might just want to stick a little bit more in there, and a little bit more in there. Okay, then you want to put on your patty. You want them to have been resting for about 5 minutes. Then you want to put your onions on. So just spread them evenly across the sandwich. Then you want a second slice of cheese. And then you want your final piece of bread. Now again, with this bread, it is a sort of American style light rye. So when you hear recipes calling for rye bread, don't go for that traditional dark, heavy loaf. That's not what you want. You want this, which is sort of essentially it's like a sourdough, but it's made with rye. Now what you want to do is push them down. So ideally you would have a big thing to push them down with, or two things. I don't, so I'll use the spoon. It's not ideal, but it does the trick. A chopping board. So you want to push down, and want that to be happening for about 2 minutes. Now with the bread, right, you can use regular sourdough. It's not going to taste exactly the same, but it's still going to be pretty delicious. So after it's been there for about 2 minutes, you want to flip it over. This is going to be challenging. Ow, 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 ow. Watch your fingers, because the bottom side of the sandwich is quite hot. Once you've flipped your sandwiches over, put the board or whatever you're using to push everything down, keep them on there nicely. And keep them on there for about another 2 minutes. By then your beef should have cooked all the way through. It'll be medium rare, so don't be scared if you've got a pink meat in the middle. Just make sure you're using good quality meat. We got this from the local butcher near us, whose meat is always top notch. And you want that cheese to be nicely melted through as well. Now to serve, let's just get your knife, cut it in half, and yep, that is perfectly cooked. And there it is, this delicious looking sandwich. Yep,